What's up? Welcome to the another episode of the bastardized version of the Dames Marv show. I say that because I'm with two bastards. Um, Actually, I'll probably always be with a couple bastards, so maybe there will always be a bastardized version. Anyway, we go by Iowa. Idiots out walking around. Idiots over Washington's antics, whatever you want to call it, or you don't have to call it anything at all. You don't even have to watch it. In fact, you can shut it off now because I guarantee you, nothing we say is going to change your mind. Nothing we say is going to provoke a thought in your head. We're just here to hear our own voices, basically, because it's the only thing we have, right? Cheers. I got to my whichever side he's on. We got Major Tom, and he's well lit. We got a well lit Major Tom
I
tonight.
do. Yeah.
I'm going to put 30 minutes on the clock right now, gentlemen.
I'm enlightened this evening.
So, anybody watching this, I just did an interview, or not an interview, but I was a guest on a show called the No Holds Barred podcast on Twitter. And I just want to tell you, they're a bunch of hacks. They didn't have any idea why I was there. The producer asked me zero questions about why they wanted me on the show. Um, they thought I was a criminal attorney. Because my Twitter says that. My Twitter says that. It also says I'm a number of other things. And
Fucking fucker in charge of you
yeah,
fucks, right?
right. And so they were, oh, you play music. Do you want to play some song? I was like, all right, I'll play a song. So I played Paper Dolls, and they were like, I really wanted to make fun of you that, but I really can't make fun of that. And so over the course of the next 40 minutes, they had people paying them $3 so they could come up and tell me I was a pussy and that my music sucks. But I got like 40 new followers and I sold 8 albums. So the joke's on them. All right. So we also have we were just discussing whether, and I'm gonna let you guys determine because I don't think you get to pick your own. We got Uncle Russ here. I want to know if you think he is the original recipe or if he's the extra crispy recipe, or if you have another adjective of chicken, you can
Let's
apply that
see.
to Uncle Russ. I like old crusty,
Yeah.
the old crusty version of Uncle Russ.
Sure.
Okay. I just wanted to get off my chest first of all. Because it really put me in a mood to not really want to do this, but then I see these
Chicken to waffles.
I see these smiling faces, and I think I'm glad we're here now because
Awesome.
this will turn things around. Got NFL in the morning. It's
All
got
right.
lots to look forward to. We got a lot of things coming up on Lock 22,
Got a lot of stuff going
including
on.
the new comedy series Comedians. I've been working on it for 2 years now, and I'm about a third of the way through the edit of the first episode. So that'll probably come out hopefully before elections, but if not, it'll be right around that time. All right. We got 27 and a half minutes, folks. I wanted to talk about the hurricane response first and foremost. I'm seeing a lot of misinformation, and I'm seeing the Trump campaign at every turn say that this is the worst response to a natural disaster in the history of our country. And I'm going to start with Major Tom. Actually, you know what? Let's start with extra crispy Uncle Russ. What do you say to that? The worst response to natural disaster by the government in the history of our country.
Well, that's what they said the last time we had a big storm. They say that every time. I don't believe it. I really don't. I think that there's an ongoing problem with FEMA being underfunded, and that is
We
an
can talk
issue,
about that too.
which is it doesn't matter who's in the White House or which party is controlling Congress. They all are reluctant to give adequate funding to it. I'm not going to say that the response has been good. As far as the worst ever in history, I doubt that. And for the record, part of the budget cuts that FEMA has undergone happened during the Trump administration. He signed off on it.
Well, before I move to or Major Tom for a response, I do want to add, I have a list. I'm not going to read the list of Republican senators who shot down right before this hurricane hit a bill to introduce more funds to FEMA for this and Milton, which is coming tomorrow, anytime now, really, to the middle of Florida. And that would have provided, including the people from those states, the senators from those states, or the governor, whatever, whoever it is that makes those decisions. They shot it down. And Major Tom, I'll let you get your comments in here now.
Well, in addition to the Republican senators, I mean, cutting FEMA's budget has been one of the easy ones to cut because it's not national defense. And, you know, a lot of people see this help going out to victims of these natural disasters. And, you know, some politicians seem to view this as welfare. But a couple of other comments. You had two Republican governors, Kemp in Georgia and the South Carolina Republican governor. I forget what his name was, but they both said that the Biden administration had been very, very, very accommodating, very helpful up front. They had people in place before. It's impossible to have what people think is a adequate response to something like this, because in all every natural disaster is different, and you can do your best to plan, but you can't always get it. Here's a couple other things I want to point out, though. Look at where all the population has gone in this country. The migration of population in the last 60 years in this country has been from the Midwest and the Northeast to the Southeast and the Gulf Coast. And so Florida today, Georgia today, Carolinas today, you got 2 to 3 times as many people living there as you did 50 years ago. There's probably 10 times the property values down there that there were. And so you've got so much more in terms of people, infrastructure, businesses, all of that that needs to be rebuilt every time one of these hurricanes comes through. And people should forget this is not something new. The city of New Orleans was completely destroyed by hurricanes 4 times in the first 10 years of its existence, and they kept rebuilding it. You'd think they'd get a clue, wouldn't you? But even back in the 1920s, I mean, when we had a hurricane hit Galveston that was killed 10,000, 20,000 people or something. We're so much better off today than we used to be. Now, I've talked enough on that, but keep it in perspective, folks.
Here's the thing. I want to talk about, I mean, it's hard to fact check a lot of this stuff in real time. I definitely don't think the government has been unresponsive. I don't think that it's the worst in history I think that's just a talking point during election season. And that really pisses me off because it's misinformation. And then you have Biden defending it. I mean, like, somebody's wrong and somebody's right, but maybe they're both right, maybe they're both wrong. Here's the thing. I've been hearing misinformation. I don't even know if it's misinformation because I can't fact check it. But there's rumors going around that FEMA is hoarding the supplies and then giving it to immigrants.
Totally false.
For what purpose would that?
Yeah.
That's
seriously,
bullshit.
it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, do
This
they
is more
really
than
think that the White House cares more about people from other countries than it does people within a, do you really think that? How could you really,
people really
how
think
could
that
you think that?
because they're
Like,
stupid.
and here's another thing. I see people saying, things like, here's the here's the North Carolina flag. I see you guys flying the Ukraine flag. I see you flying the Israel flag. When you get time, here's the North Carolina flag. How could you compare genocide to a natural disaster and think that you're being like witty or smart or even like tongue in cheek? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold water. Like, people aren't flying flags for the Ukraine because of an earthquake. Uh, there, people are literally getting killed for being Ukrainian, or Israel's the same way. Like, where do these people get off thinking that that's even a justified response to sending funds to those countries? Either one of you.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a fair comparison at all, but it's really part and parcel of the political mentality that we have in this country of it's all about owning the libs or denigrating the MAGA people. It's all about what you can do to tear down your neighbor. And I think people are just sick of it. They're just tired of it and they want to move on beyond it. And when you get to the point where you have to start arguing over flags to win an election, it kind of tells me that maybe you don't have anything else to talk about in a positive matter.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Uncle Russ, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just think that we need to remember that even as a nation of immigrants, that anti-immigrant bias is nothing new in our culture. This country has a very, very long history of anti-immigration bias, and it's been an ugly part of our culture for a long time. And political campaigns always seem to bring about the worst in people in regards to that. I just I'll give a quick example. A couple of years ago when they were reporting about the horrendous conditions and the horrendous influx of illegals in Del Rio, Texas, I talked to my sister and brother-in-law who have lived in Del Rio for the past 40 years. And I said, what about all those people under the bridge there by the river? They said, believe me, it's all news media hysteria. It's political bullshit. It's like this all the time. It has always been like this. It has never changed, and it probably is never going to change. And they've lived on the border for 40 years, and they're convinced that the overwhelming majority of immigrants, including illegals, are not criminals and are not a detriment to our nation. And I'm more inclined to believe family that I know and trust for decades more than I'm going to believe a journalist or a politician.
So
Firsthand experience counts for something.
I want to go back to the first debate, not the one with Joe Biden, but the Harris Trump debate, where he made the claim that they're eating the dogs, the cats, the pets of the people that live there. And I watched a couple of videos recently this week where somebody's like, it's true. There are Haitians in here, and they're living in all these apartments that are government funded. They're going to our schools. Our kids' education is becoming lesser because they're trying to teach these people English. And I'm like, that was never a question. We always knew there was 20,000 Haitian immigrants in Ohio. We knew that. That wasn't the issue that was being had. The issue was they were not eating the pets of the people that live there. So people just they want to run with this weird thing. What would you do with these people? Haiti. Think about it. When you think of the word Haiti, what comes to you like just absolute trash and peril comes to mind. Of course, those people want to find another place, and we found a place for them. Now, what are we gonna do with them? Not allow them to be part of society? Keep them out of our schools? Like, what's wrong? What's so bad about them going to our schools to learn our languages? And I just don't get the fear involved. These communities aren't overrun with crime. Maybe rent prices are going up because that's just the way it is, but like we're a country of immigrants. Where is this fear coming from, you guys?
Well, I'll jump in here. I think Russ made a really good point, and it's back to a human nature tribalism sort of thing, and it goes
Evolution.
way back to our days on the savannah in Africa, where the tribes people gathered together and formed tribes for protection, and then all of a sudden there was the us and the them. You can point to everything that is being said about Haitians, Guatemalans, whoever coming into the country now. The exact same thing happened to Italians coming to this country, to the Irish coming to this country, to Germans coming to this country. I mean, immigration has been. Think about the workers that came from China that built the transcontinental railroad. Do you think they got treated good?
No.
Hell no. They got treated like shit. And that's what we do in this country. At least a certain element does this. And yeah, I don't know. It's just one of the bad things about human nature that we seem to have trouble getting past, like racism.
Sure. I know that's a big part of it, but I don't think the anti-immigrants politicians of the day will ever admit that it's rooted in a fear of non-white people. That the basic root of it is fear of the other. You know, like I said, which you know, millions of years ago in our evolution may have saved our life, but now it's killing us. It's not helping us. It's killing us.
All right. We're just under the halfway point here. I know it's flying by, right, guys? So Tom, I want to get to a topic that you wanted to discuss, which was the weather control conspiracies and where they're coming from, and what I'll just let you explain and then give your takes on it.
Well, most of you probably heard that Marjorie Taylor Greene put a tweet out a few days ago saying that whoever they is, you know who she's hinting at. It's the government and obviously the Democrats, because they're the only ones running the government right now. Congress has no say in anything, right? Yeah. So anyway, they know how to control the weather. And so obviously the hurricanes are being directed towards the places where there's more Republican voters. All right. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
uh, yeah. And, it'd be really easy to dismiss this as just Marjorie Taylor Greene being dumbass stupid again, like she always is. But,
Always.
but now today I hear no less of a figure than Grant Cardone. And for those of you who don't know who Grant Cardone is, he is like this really, really successful and popular sales guru. He's I know him from my days in the car business. If you want to learn how to sell and how to be successful at selling and really make a ton of money at selling anything, go to one of Grant Cardone's seminars. They're great. But no less a figure than him today came out and said, "I've been living on the Gulf Coast for all my life, or in this region for all my life, and I've never seen a hurricane go from west to east like this one is. somebody's controlling the weather, basically, is what he said in so many words. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, people, get a grip. Get a grip. Number one, there is lots of historical evidence for hurricanes going from west to east. They're
Yes.
not as frequent, but it has happened before. Just talk to any meteorologist. They will tell you, usually happens late in the hurricane season. Guess what, folks? We're late in the hurricane season. And so that's probably what's going on. But an even bigger thing of manipulating the weather, all you need is a little basic science to just totally destroy any evidence that any idea that this might be real. The average hurricane, just the winds, forget about the storm surge and the water flow and the waves and everything, just the winds in an average hurricane have the equivalent energy of 500,000,000,000,000 watts. That is equivalent to more than the generating capacity of the entire world for more than 6 months. And these hurricanes are bigger than the average. And so, where are you going to, if you've got the ability to create 500,000,000,000 watts of power on demand, number one, where's your raw material for that coming from? Where's your logistics for that coming from? And the heat sink on that would be visible from, as one guy said, the orbit of Jupiter. I mean, come on. This is just such baloney. I can't believe anyone with any kind of brain at all would think this.
I have
And
two things to add. Are we saying that these people that are affected by the hurricanes are not going to vote in this election? Is that what we're saying, first of all? Secondly, where are the hurricanes in the top? I'm going to give you the top 5 most conservative states. Okay. Number 5 is Idaho.
no hurricanes there.
Well, no hurricanes in Idaho that I'm aware of. What about North Dakota, folks? Never heard of a hurricane in North Dakota. How about Oklahoma? No, they're
Yep.
good. West Virginia, they're good. And the number 1 is Wyoming. No hurricanes in Wyoming. And you can go ahead and lump Nebraska in there. You can go ahead and lump Kansas in there.
Texas.
All these Republican areas are
Yeah.
not being hit with hurricanes. Guess what? Hurricanes have been hitting these areas for thousands of years.
Yes.
Right.
And this is the hurricane season. I'm pretty sure that no one's reinventing the wheel here. I honestly, I think that these people have just lost their minds. They've lost their minds, grasping at straws, because they don't think they can win a fair. Oh, I'm pretty sure if you take out all the misinformation that these people on the right believe, it's not even close. It's not even a close election at all. The only prop that they have is the fear that they put in these people's heads.
Absolutely. And this is symptomatic of, I think, what happens. Because believe me, I've seen it on the other side. I lived through the Nixon landslide of 1972 and the Reagan's landslides in 1980 and 1984. And guess what happened to people on the Democratic side of the thing there? They started coming up with really stupid things that they said and thought about where the country was and where it was going, and it was going to hell. I remember on election night in 1980 listening to some lady on a talk show bemoaning the fact that Ronald Reagan was going to absolutely destroy America. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. This is what people do because they cannot accept the fact that the public is not agreeing with them and not buying their stuff.
Right.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I firmly believe that Donald Trump could ruin America. I don't think that's a talking point. Or just a talking point. I think there's something substantial to that, and he's made that perfectly clear. If you look at the agenda for 2025, which he says he's not aligned with, even if he's not read it or know anything about it, the things that he's doing
Oh, he
and
does.
saying are aligning with it perfectly. And it starts with the Supreme Court. Uh, that to me is the one thing that has made me say no, 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 no more of that, because of what he's done already with the Supreme Court to manipulate the way this country is today. And I, I just I fear that he's told the lies so many times, you guys, that he actually thinks that he could never get a fair trial in New York. He actually believes that. Whether there's evidence against him or not, it's rigged. Everything's rigged. There's nothing he can do legit in this country. Why is that? You're the common denominator here, guy. I mean, geez. I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing that would take my mind off of the fact that he's a rapist. He has raped, and whether I have like a video footage of it or not, I've seen the
33
way he's talked.
accusations.
I've watched him throughout his life, and there are very few women that have like had intimate contact with him that are like, oh, he's a great guy. And his wife has put out this book that's opposing his views right before the election. What do you think? What do you think of that? Russ, I'll let you go first.
Well, the number that I recently read was that there's been 33, a total of over the years, 33 accusations of sexual misconduct. I don't believe that every single one of them is lying on purpose and is a part of a conspiracy to take Donald Trump down. I don't believe that for a minute. What I do believe, like many, many other wealthy and powerful men, he's a horn dog and he gets what he wants and he takes what he wants. And as he said, he grabs them right by the pussy. And he's been getting away with it for decades. And so have a lot of other politicians in both parties. And people are starting to think differently about that shit now.
I'm glad you said that, because those are his own words. He said, and I quote, "When you're famous, you can do whatever you want and they don't care. They'll let you grab them by the pussy." Those are his words. How
Yes.
is that not enough for you to connect the dots and say, okay, clearly he's not saying that he did that. He's not admitting to a specific case, but he's certainly saying, yeah, I've done that. I've done that. And then you got these women that come out and say, yeah, he did that to me. And they're the liars.
Right.
There's nothing, no policy that he could have in his pocket. And quite frankly, he doesn't have any that are good. But there's not one that he could have that's going to make me forget that he's a rapist. None.
He's a rapist and a
Zero.
racist.
I
Whoa.
cannot vote for this man. I would never consider it. He should not even be allowed to be on the ballot.
I think
Go
the
ahead.
thing that's hardest for me to
3 minutes.
get around with the whole sexual misconduct stuff that he does is I don't see how anyone who calls themselves an evangelical Christian
That's a joke.
could possibly support this man. He is antithetical to everything they stand for in terms of truth, integrity, honesty, upright moral character, all of these things that they expect and want people to be. He is a complete polar opposite of it.
But here's
And
the
how
problem, Tom. This is the problem with that. They don't watch news. They don't educate themselves. They listen to what their political or what their religious leader tells them. And I don't know where these people are getting their information, but once he's ordained by God to lead this country, none of that matters. It
Well,
doesn't matter. Like those facts just don't matter to it. And I'm just gonna say, and I hate to offend anybody here, but when you subscribe to this evangelical gobbledygook, you are brainwashed already. You are brainwashed because there's nothing about it that makes sense. There's nothing that you can connect with logic. It's a
yeah,
fantasy. So when you're already in that realm, somebody tells you that's our guy. You just do it.
yep,
Think about any cult that's ever existed. The people that drank the Kool-Aid, they all died.
yeah.
Oh, he died 10 minutes ago from this thing I'm about to drink, but I know that's what I have to do because it's God's will. Idiots. All right, let's move on. We got too much to get to and like a minute left. We're probably going to go long today. Bob Woodward's book, Trump calling Putin 7 times after his presidency was over. Tom, let you take that one.
Believe
Go ahead, Russ.
Russ.
it's not hard for me to believe at all. And that will not be a problem at all to Trump's hardcore base because I read the shit they put out and they love Putin. They love Russia. There's even religious leaders in both countries that are working toward what they think is God's will, and that is a unification of Russia and the United States under God. God help us all if anything like that happens. Putin, things have changed radically in Russia in that Putin has publicly embraced the Orthodox Church. He publicly practices the religion. So apparently the mandatory state atheism is a thing of the past. But what people don't understand is that this is a union between church and empire. It's exactly what these evangelicals want to do in America. They want a Christian empire. And if you don't, it doesn't even matter if you're a Christian, it's going to matter what kind of Christian are you. And if you're not exactly the same kind of Christian that they are, you're out.
Tom, I'm gonna give you your closing comment first.
Well, the uh, the thing about Bob Woodward is they can dismiss him as being old and feeble and this and that and the other thing. Listen, this guy's been doing investigative journalism, uh, since I was a teenager. Okay, he was the original guy on the Watergate story, and if you look over the years, he has written God knows how many books. And to my knowledge, there's never everybody always kind of, well, how did he know this? How did he know that? I think he sources very well. He knows he's got no one's ever disproved any of the stuff that he's written. So if he says that Putin made 7 private phone calls, or Trump made 7 private phone calls to Putin, I think it's probably true. If he says that Trump sent COVID tests over to Putin, yep, I think it probably happened. And I'm telling you, there is more to this relationship between Trump and Putin than is out in the open. There is something going on here. I go back to a comment that Don Jr. made way back before the 2016 election. He made a comment to somebody. They were talking about the finances for the Trump company, and Don Jr. said, "Nothing to worry about. We can get all the money we need from the Russians." Actual quote. There's something going on here. Donald Trump is in Putin's pocket, and let's hope like hell that he loses.
All right, Russ. Closing
I can't
closing
really add anything
arguments.
to that other than that,
You got
I
nothing?
I've read speculation online about their relationship also, you know.
All right. This is
Some kind of bromance going on there.
closing arguments about anything. I'm going to throw you this one because he pretty much covered everything on that. Elon Musk claiming if Trump doesn't win, it will be the last election. What's your closing thought on that?
Heard it before a million times. It's bullshit.
But what does he mean by that?
What he means is that, you know, if Trump loses, that the Harris administration is somehow going to bring down the United States of America to total destruction. And he's out of his fucking mind, in my humble opinion.
Let me throw this back at you. By that standard, Trump said it would be the last election if he wins. So what's Elon's point at that point?
Well, I think what he probably means there is that if elected, he'll never leave office. They're going to have to take armed soldiers into the Oval Office and drag his ass out at gunpoint before he'll leave. I could see him doing that. I think he's crazy enough to do something like that.
Can I just throw one aside in there?
Yeah.
1972 campaign, Richard Nixon against George McGovern. People said, if Nixon gets reelected, it'll be the last election we ever have.
Well,
nothing's new under the sun.
Thank you guys for being so positive during this episode. Really appreciate that. I'm sorry we didn't get to our final topic of the day, which was straight out of AJ Chambers' film Babezilla. We didn't get to discuss her queef cannon.
Queef cannon.
Maybe we
Babezilla.
can talk about that on the next episode. Actually, Russ, I do have a link for you to watch Babezilla 2, where there's an
I haven't seen it yet.
There's all right, balloons. There's an evolution of the queef cannon that I think that you would particularly like. Which reminds me, I got to interview AJ Chambers about that movie on another bastardized version of the
Oh,
Dane.
excellent.
Yes. So my closing argument is this, you guys. The scariest thing about this election cycle to me is religion. And religion is the one fucking thing that should not have anything to do with politics or the election. That's why it is such a scary thing. We're like 5 minutes over. I appreciate everybody watching. The Seahawks may show up and play a game on Thursday night, so there won't be a show Thursday. Sorry about last week. I blame Uncle Russ because I can.
It was all his fault.
Yeah, I was under the weather.
But if you guys want to be a guest on this show, we'd love to have you. Even if it's just your voice and you don't want to show your face, I get it. But really, look at these faces. You couldn't bring us down any further. So what I'll say is thank you for watching. Please leave a comment in the comment section about anything. If you topics that you want us to discuss on the next show, even if it's Babezilla's queef cannon. Obviously, we're totally cool to go off schedule every once in a while. But I also want you to check out our TikTok. We got everything is on our TikTok. We got movie reviews, we got sports, we got politics, we got wrestling. I guess that would be included in sports. Maybe. All right, guys. That's really all I got for you. Thank you for your time. A half hour goes by really quickly, but I feel like it's good for us to stay on that timeline. Just because there is so much to talk about, and if we talked it all out on one show, well, we wouldn't have another show. So thank you guys. We'll see you on the next idiots out walking around.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.